It's the first point of contact, I suppose, quite literally for people now when they touch down and arrive at Dublin Airport. So will you take us through, Minister, what will happen?
So firstly, when people arrive, they'll go through the normal passport checks, and at the moment that is where people are being processed and their details are being taken. But since we agreed last week at European level to apply a temporary protection mechanism, this is a new process which will give people who are fleeing Ukraine essentially the same status as me or you or anybody else from Europe. So when people arrive now, as of today, since we've opened this one-stop shop, they'll go through the passport process. They'll be brought over to an office that we've set up in the DAA, and I want to thank them for providing this as quickly as they have. The first people they'll meet will be officials from my own department, where they will essentially be given a letter of permission, essentially confirming this temporary protection measure. They will then go upstairs to other offices where they'll meet with officials from social protection. So my colleague Heather Humphreys was with me here today. They will then, if they need accommodation, meet with officials from Minister O'Gorman's department in children. And then, to be honest, we have spaces set up where people can sit down, where they can take a break, where they can have a bite to eat. There's a lot of children coming in, so we have rooms with toys, with cots, with cartoons on. You know, people have travelled for days. They're exhausted, but they've gone through a very traumatic experience. So we want to make sure that not only do we go through the system and the process and getting the letters and the papers that they need, but that they also have a chance just to sit down and to take a break.
Things like, for instance, when they go through, I suppose, all of the paperwork, I suppose, the official avenue, as you mentioned, like, Minister, when people then go to, whether it's a friend or a home that has been organised for them, or through the Red Cross portal, we talked to the Red Cross here in the show yesterday about Irish people pledging and opening their homes to Ukrainian refugees. Can people then, once they get organised and get settled, can they look then at, maybe work options, education options? Like, what sort of avenues are available?
So there are a number of things happening at the moment. To give you a flavour, there's just over 2,500 people have arrived in the last 12 days, and we'll probably have a few more hundred this evening. 2/3 of those are female, 1/3 male, and of all of those, 1/3 are children. So it's mainly women and children arriving. About 1/3 of those people have sought accommodation through the state, and the others have had family or friends, or, so people who probably have come to pick them up, or they've been able to travel to stay with them. The people who have sought accommodation, who don't have relatives or friends here, initially they're being brought to hotels. We needed to make sure we could scale up as quickly as possible, and that first and foremost, people had a warm bed, a warm room, somewhere to stay, in particular those with their children. But immediately, once they have that piece of paper in their hand saying they have this temporary protection, they can enrol their children in schools, they can access healthcare if they need it, they can start working if they need it, but also they can seek their own accommodation as well. So really this provides them with the same type of access and support that, as I said, me or you or anybody else would be entitled to.
Okay.
It is on a temporary basis, and this is what's different about it. It is for 1 year initially, with the potential to extend for 2 to 3 years. And that's because really, these are people who don't want to be here. I met 2 women with their children who had to flee on day 1 of this war. They live next to where the initial air bases were bombed. They had to leave their sons behind who were fighting. They don't want to be here. They're very grateful for the support we're providing, but they want to get home as quickly as possible. And I think that's everybody's intention.
Just in terms of, I suppose, the cost of living in all of this, like, people will be able to get access to our social welfare system and benefits.
They will, and that is why myself and Minister Humphreys launched this hub today, because social protection are very much at the core of this work that's being done. They're providing essentially initial payments to people who arrive, because people, of course, are not going to be working straight away. If they have children, they will be able to access child benefit. And obviously, if there were further needs down the line, you will have people coming who have health requirements. You have people coming who may have disabilities. You have people coming of every walk of life, and we need to make sure that the supports are there. So whether it's through social protection or another department, we're working collectively as a government. I would say, the last 2 years, really, we have come together, I think, as a government and public and private working together, and certainly the speed at which we have responded to this really is a testament to so many working across the different agencies, the different departments and the public and private sector.
I don't think anyone would question it, Minister, but do we have the budget, or has it been budgeted for?
Well, of course, this hasn't been budgeted for, and I say that in the sense that, I think most of us hoped that this was never going to happen. There will be support at a European level, and that's been worked through at the moment. But yes, this is going to be an additional cost on the state. Yes, this is something that we hadn't planned for, we hadn't budgeted for, but it is the right thing to do. And I think everybody in this country wants us to welcome and to support people who are coming in who really have no other option. And yes, we have to keep all of this under review, and our ministers, in particular Minister for Finance and Public Expenditure, are working very closely together to make sure that we do have the finances and the resources to support them.
I spoke to the Red Cross, as I mentioned, about the portal, Minister, yesterday, and the number of pledges. I just want to ask you about it because I heard in the news there the figure, it's jumped from 6,000 to 9,000. Are you surprised by the, I don't want to say generosity, but the level of interest and support from Irish people who, like, over 9,000 have pledged so far to open their homes?
I'm not surprised at all, and I have to say my phone is, I'm getting texts at all hours from people wanting to offer a room, offer accommodation, maybe, an apartment they might have, people offering other types of accommodation or support or help. So the fact that number has jumped so quickly, and I think we expect it to probably be at the 10,000 mark by the end of the day, I'm really not surprised. Anybody I've met, the response is the same. How can we help? We want to help. This is completely... this is atrocious what is happening, and not something that any of us have witnessed in our lifetime, that the mass movement of such a large number of people. And I think Irish people just want to help.
Do you know, I only mentioned on the show yesterday, Minister, when we were talking to the Red Cross about, people, just questions and queries about how you can get involved and what would be involved in opening your home and what you have to do. And I mentioned that, I've given it serious consideration myself. And yeah, I do have, I suppose, some questions or queries. And I was asking about whether or not you can specify, maybe that you might take, if you've only a small space, you might be in a position to take maybe one female, and, just questions like that. And a lot of queries coming in from people. I was reading about Eamon Ryan earlier today, talking about, encouraging even government ministers to take Ukrainian refugees into their homes. I think a lot of people are considering it. Would it be something that you'd consider?
Well, I'll be honest, it's something that I have discussed with my husband. I think it's a very personal decision that everybody has to take. And, as you said, what do you have available? Is it a spare room? Is it something bigger? How many people can you accommodate? I think people are still having those conversations and seeing how they can help. And if they can't offer accommodation, is there something else they can do? So yes, it's something I'm considering. But, those type of questions and those types of offers, they'll all have to be processed now. As you say, you're not going to send potentially a family of 3 or 4 people, or a mother and her children, to someone that only has a room. So all of that's been worked through at the moment. The portal has been set up very, very quickly. And again, just to thank the Red Cross and all of those who are working with Minister O'Gorman's department to process those offers. I would ask people to have patience, because obviously we've just put this system in place. We have to work through the offers. We have to look at what exactly we need. Initially, we are able to accommodate the people who are coming in, but we know as the figures increase, that won't be the case any longer. But we will get round to contacting absolutely everybody as quickly as we can. And just to thank everyone who's pledged and offered their support and help already. It's invaluable.